If one can study the whole unabridged Mahabharata, one will notice the kind of the women who were given the platform by Vedavyasa, right? Each woman is so unique and very unapologetically herself. In the critical edition of Mahabharata, it's not shown that Draupadi rejected Karna for being a Sutaputra. And I'll tell you how it doesn't make any logic, because Suta doesn't mean a charioteer.
Hello, Saiswaroopa ma'am. Welcome on the show. So, firstly, let me just start this podcast with saying that your books are phenomenal. Avishi and Rukmini, I read these two books recently, and Avishi I finished in like 2 days, and Rukmini took me just 5 hours. So this was like a really amazing read, completely page turner reads.
Thank you so much. Feel so glad to hear that.
Ma'am, like before we start this podcast and we start talking about the whole conversation around Avishi, which is a queen Vishpala, if I'm not wrong, from Rigveda, and about Rukmini as well. I just wanted to ask you, like, all the books that you have written around like 5 books, out of which 4 are books that in a way, talks about Krishna. It is about women that Krishna had in his life. So how did this, journey started? Where did this start? And do you do you have some kind of, bhakti for Lord Krishna?
Yes, coming to your question, I think my writing career, or the phase of writing in my life, started because of Lord Krishna.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, to give a bit of a background, I grew up with these stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Puranas, and I'm the first in my generation of cousins. So whenever there used to be a family reunion for some festival or anything like that, I used to be the storyteller for the whole bunch. And that continued till academics became more and more stringent and dominant part of our life. Then the reunions and all did not used to happen like they used to. And yes, the storyteller within me, she was still there, looking for the next opportunity to tell the story within her. Right. And then in my early college, I had a Muslim friend who just innocently asked me, why is Krishna such a big deal to you guys? I mean, of all the gods that you have, you guys seem to love him so much, and he has so many wives, and how can you love such a guy and all that? Then I told her the story of Narakasura Vadha. And that is, I just told her in summary that, there was this Asura called Naraka, and he abducted so many women, 16,000 as per the Bhagavatam, and he held them against their will, and, he did a bunch of other horrible things, and finally Krishna had to go kill him. And then these women, they were abducted from their families. They had nowhere to go, and Krishna wanted them to have wanted them to get back to mainstream life, which is why he married them, and which is why he has so many wives. And this part especially makes him really much more dearer than the other gods, because he feels where he's not, I mean, even if he had not married the women, he would have just got all the credit and all, all the heroes worship for killing the Asura. This is something which he did beyond, beyond a normal victor would do, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So the whole conversation, it just stuck with me. And the imaginative part of me started reimagining the whole story from the perspective of one of those women. And that's how Abhaya was born. Yeah, she's she's an imaginary fictional character who I sent to the times of Mahabharata. And even then, I didn't realize that I had a book in me. She used to be just a part of this imagination, the side imagination world that a lot of us single kids have these imaginary friends and all that, right? So she used to be a part of that world for me. And I think instead of leaving when we grow up, she also grew with me. And then a couple of years down the line, a couple of Hindu girls asked me the same question that Razia asked me, and I was like, okay, something is actually wrong here. We are losing the knowledge. Knowledge can be got from books, but we are losing the connect and nuance that is supposed to be had, along with just the knowledge part of it. And that made me try writing the story. And in the process of researching for Abhaya, right, the story was set in Bhagavatam. But when we tried to reimagine it from a historical sense, Mahabharata becomes a very important, so we have to set it somewhere in the Mahabharata timeline.
Right.
So, because India is such a vast country, Kamarupa, which is the place of Narakasura, or Bhauma, as I called him in the book, is Assam. Krishna is in Dwaraka. So what brings Krishna, somebody from Gujarat to all the way to Assam, something big had to be happening. And so I set it in the backdrop of Rajasuya, the run up to the Rajasuya. That's parallelly happening in the Pandava side. So all that was exciting. So that in turn brought a lot of books, lot more stories to be explored. That's how Mauri happened, which is like a sequel to Abhaya. And even for Draupadi and Rukmini, I think Abhaya gave that strong research foundation.
So,
I still have a couple more books around Mahabharata, but I, decided to take a small break from the whole zone.
Right. But then, you have chosen such a great storyline because when we read your book, so apart from Avishi, all the other books, they I think so they crisscross somewhere in their timelines, and that is so beautiful. And that is the best part about reading your books, because you get to see, okay, this character sees Lord Krishna in this way and the other character sees Lord Krishna in this way, and then it crisscrosses somewhere in the towards the end, and which is so beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's my aim, to let a whole world unfold to the reader. I want the reader to be a part of, the Krishna Pandava family, rather than, some stranger reading a story. I would love for the reader to become a part and parcel of, that whole beautiful family dynamics.
But then how do you define Lord Krishna? Because when we look at the whole Hindu mythology, mythology or history, like whatever the audience chooses to, talk about it. But then when we look at it, there are two main characters. Like one is Lord Ram and the other one is Lord Krishna. And both have very distinct qualities. Lord Ram, Maryada Purushottam. Then there's Lord Krishna, very, flamboyant, very talkative in a way. So he has his own way. How do you define him? And why I ask is this, because all your books talk about him in some manner. And there have been a lot of misconceptions also about his choices. So I really want you to get into this topic.
Yes. So between Rama and Krishna, again, I'm not that much of an expert on Ramayana. Mahabharata is more of my comfort area. But from my limited knowledge, we come to the theory of avatars. Right, and this I am quoting from a book called Krishna, a study in the theory of avatars. The author is Bhagwan Das, Dr. Bhagwan Das ji. It's published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. I don't know whether copies are in print because it's a very old book. But he had a very interesting observation of how to classify the avatars. Now we go beyond just the Dashavatara concept. There are many more avatars. So there are people who give the world new ideas. right? And that itself sets a new school of thought. So they give the world knowledge. Basically, they are for the brain of the world. They are consciousness of the world. Like Kapila, he gave the Sankhya school of thought, Kapila Maharshi, and Vyasa. The whole corpus that he gave, that's one degree of avatara. The other degree tries to put it into action.
Right.
The next degree. So our Parashurama, Rama, they come and they just don't tell about dharma, but they try to put it into action.
Yeah.
And Krishna is somebody who does all both these, and he remains somewhat independent of the consequences. So I'm not saying ki, of course, after that there was the curse of Gandhari, I'm not saying that he's above that, but he sees himself as a part of this world. He's not disowning the world,
right?
But he's also independent of this world, whereas Rama is not. Rama is still bound by the, like you said, Maryada Purushottam, he is bound by the laws he himself has set.
Yeah.
Right? Krishna is still in the world, but he is free. So it's not like, again, I want to quote a very beautiful comparison done by Oshoji here between Krishna and Buddha. So Buddha negated. So again, I'm not an expert on Buddhism, so this is from what I read. Buddha negated, not this world, so not this body, not my mind, So the nothingness here, he went inward. But Krishna is like expanded.
Yeah.
Yes, I am this body. I am this, I am all these people of Gokul. I am all these people of India.
Yeah.
I am the Pandavas, I am the Kauravas. That's the whole concept behind the Vishwarupa, right? Where Arjuna
exactly, yes.
So Krishna's ego, I'm not saying ego as a arrogance or anything like that, but Krishna's notion of self is everything. So whatever right, wrong, anything that happens, he knows that only he is he is going to be the object of it. So the level of freedom is something else.
Yeah. And like there was this one scene in Rukmini where Lord Krishna is he's running away with Rukmini and Rukma is chasing them. And there's this one line which Krishna says to Rukmini, which is a person who cannot even think of himself, like something on this. I'm obviously paraphrasing.
Yes.
So that actually defines that he sees himself and everyone around him. So he's like, okay, I don't care because they are doing what they are doing because I have set it that way.
Exactly. See, that's the thing. I'm also practicing Sri Vidya, which is a way of worshipping Mother Goddess. And we have the concept of chakras. It's there in a lot of schools, yoga, everything. But Krishna is the Lord of Anahata Chakra. That's in the heart. And Anahata Chakra stands for unconditional love.
Wow.
So at a level, Rukmini, who loves him, is dear to him, as well as Rukma, who hates him, is also dear to him.
Yeah.
The way he deals with both may be different, but somewhere he holds them both together.
Right. And also, like as you mentioned that Anahata Chakra, right? So it is the chakra of unconditional love. And what I have noticed this is that whenever someone prays to Lord Krishna or is into Krishna bhakti, the bhakti, it comes from eternal love. It comes from that unconditional love. There is no like, for example, for other gods there might be some conditions. Okay, if I pray to you, you give me this. But for Lord Krishna, a lot of people have just love. And
yes.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And this is not to put the other gods down, because the nature of human evolution that happens, the spiritual evolution that happens with association of each god, it has a particular function. Like say the Mooladhara Chakra is associated with Lord Ganesha, And he better have good conditions, because he's the one who gives you that progress, and that progress has to be given to somebody who deserves it. So there he cannot be unconditional,
Yeah, makes sense. So, let me ask you this: when we look at all the Indian mythological stories, when we look at the religion Hinduism, a lot of people have said that it is a very patriarchal religion, and the whole stories always talk about the men and the heroes, and then you choose to write about the sheroes, the female characters. So, was this a conscious decision, or like this was just some divine calling?
Part of both, but not because I feel I disagree with the popular notion that Mahabharata, Ramayana, the whole Itihasa corpus is male driven or patriarchal or anything like that. But what happens here, like in fact, if you observe, if one can study the whole unabridged Mahabharata, one will notice the kind of the women who were given the platform by Veda Vyasa, right? Each woman is so unique and very unapologetically herself. Right from Shakuntala, her, the way she wed, and the way she asserted herself, and got her son to be the king. That's something. To take the risk with the man you love, and that's something. Take the case of Savitri, that's totally something else. And the whole Kuru women, Kunti, Draupadi, Gandhari, nobody is weak here. So, and also there's one scholar in Telugu who said this, ki Kavi Hridayam is Stri Hridayam. Any rishi who is composing, he has to have a feminine heart for that work to stand the test of time.
Oh, wow. That is so beautiful.
Yes. So this patriarchal male-driven story thing, how it happened is because of the retellings. So the retellings, they had to condense the story. And in condensing the story, somehow the focus became very action-oriented and a war-oriented, this one. So that cut down the stage time given to the female, feminine voice, basically. So that's the reason why a lot of people feel that, okay, they are very patriarchal. Okay, Yudhishthira, he staked Draupadi, so such a patriarchal, this one. But, if you read the Mahabharata, you'll understand that it's Draupadi who came and saved Yudhishthira and his brothers from becoming slaves. Like, she argued, though she was, she had to go through quite an ordeal, but she argued alone in the court, built dissent, and finally convinced Dhritarashtra to set her husbands free and get the whole game annulled. That's the power of Draupadi. In a way, it's the perspective. Vyasa makes her look like the heroine of that scene, the hero of that scene, as you said.
And
so, a lot of people look at her as a victim. She's not victim. Of course, she had to pass through a very tough time, but she's the hero. Ultimately, she's the hero of that scene.
But then Draupadi has this other side as well, and I am at a point now where I don't know if this is the truth or this has been popularized by the retellings, which is Draupadi rejecting Karna in her Swayamvara.
Okay. So I'll have to tell about the process of how the critical edition of Mahabharata came to be. So when there's an institute called Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune. So there a scholar named Vishnu Sitaram Sukthankar. I hope I'm remembering the name right. It's V.S. Sukthankar. He's popular that way. So he put together a team of 30 Sanskrit Pandits, and they collected manuscripts of Mahabharata from various mathas, ashramas, gurukuls, institutions, in whatever form it was preserved. They went through each, and there were around 1,000 recensions.
Wow.
Yes. So they went through each of the, recension, and each recension will have a family, right? Some Gurukula in Kashi has this particular edition, and students from that school, or they would have started some school in South, so this edition, this recension would have come. So they traced this family tree of the whole. So that way, any aberrations or any additions, they they found out, and they finally arrived upon something which is common to all editions. So that becomes the critical edition.
Correct.
So in the critical edition of Mahabharata, it's not shown that Draupadi rejected Karna for being a Sutaputra. And I'll tell you how it doesn't make any logic, because Suta doesn't mean a charioteer.
Okay.
Suta is so I would say aristocratic community, where the father, it's a mixed caste of Brahmana and Kshatriya.
Okay.
So if a Brahmana, like a rishi, marries a princess, she will go live in his ashram. Her sons will also become rishis. There's no controversy here. But if a Kshatriya father marries a Brahman woman, right? And there is the exposure for that woman is too harsh in a Kshatriya world. She would have grown up with knowledge, studying, teaching, and suddenly you're thrown into world of politics, intrigues. That's kind of harsh. So for the children of these two, right, there were some functions set, reserved.
Okay.
So that basically sought to combine the abilities of both. So charioteer is not a low, the Sarathi is not a low function. It's because I think in 21st century, I think we equate charioteer to be a driver, and say, idhar jao, udhar jao. Charioteer is not that. So he basically knows the strengths and weaknesses of the warrior. And he has certain rights about how, how long to continue that particular battle, or whether to cut it and go.
Right.
And readying the chariot with the weapons for the next day's war. So planning the whole strategy with who you will fight, Krishna used to do that for Arjuna.
Right.
So the respective charioteers used to do it for their respective rathis.
Right.
So that way, charioteer is like, the king and minister. So the warrior and the charioteer.
So half of the brain, basically.
Yes. Yeah. All of the brain, maybe, because you don't have time to think.
Right.
So yes, that is Sarathi was one thing. And the other very popular profession reserved for Sutas was that of storytelling.
Oh, wow.
So any Purana is a conversation between two people you will come across. One is Shaunaka, who is the Kulapati of Naimisha. Naimisha is the root school of, root school of all knowledge in India. So he is the Kulapati, or the chancellor of Naimisha. And the other person telling the story is Suta Mahamuni. His name is Ugrashrava, but he's called as Suta. And you will see how respectfully Shaunaka addresses Suta, and he says, Suta, please tell us the story of this.
Yeah.
And Suta is the knowledge giver, actually, and Shaunaka is the listener.
Yeah.
So there was the class of the position of Sutas was quite exalted. Of them were kings, and a lot of people who were present in Draupadi's Swayamvara were Sutas.
Wow.
So that way she should have rejected everybody,
Right.
So that is not there, basically. And Karna tried, and there is in one of the Telugu Mahabharatas, there's a very detailed description of the gap with which each warrior missed the target.
Oh, wow. It is that detailed.
Yes.
Wow.
So Karna came quite close.
Okay. That means he tried, and then because he couldn't hit the target, he was rejected.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.